Hey babes, I'm Mother Dearest and welcome to The Off-Script Parent. Welcome everyone. So today we're talking about how to listen so your kids will actually talk, which kind of flips the script on all the books and podcasts that promote how to talk so people listen. And no, that doesn't mean turning into Mary fucking Poppins. It just means staying calm even when every fibre of your soul wants to flip your fucking lid and yeet yourself into the sun. So if you've ever thought, why won't my kid tell me anything, or fucking grunt at me one more time, child, I dare you, this episode's probably for you. All my references for my research moments will be in the show notes, so you can take a closer look or check that I'm not bullshitting you. So let's get into it. Section 1, why listening matters more than lecturing. So here's the thing, kids aren't allergic to talking. I'm guessing you've heard them on a group call or screaming into the mic on Fortnite. Jesus Christ, why do they do that? What they are allergic to, besides bringing down cups and fucking using deodorant, is being judged, interrupted, or immediately told off before they've even finished their sentence. The science for this backs it up, and I'll run through some research and evidence as to why what I do works. Most of the time. There's a style of parenting called autonomy supportive parenting. I know, wanky, right? But it basically means if you give your kids space to express themselves, sort of level out that power imbalance of parent-child and treat their perspective as valid. So think less Harry Wormwood from Matilda, I'm right, you're wrong, I'm big, you're little. We want to avoid that at all costs. You want to work with them, not at them, so it's about collaboration. You know how you want, or wanted if you're a single Pringle, being there, to be like a team with your partner so things run smoothly and you feel seen and heard. That's kind of what we want to go for here with our kids. All these studies showed that kids are more honest, better emotionally regulated, and willing to talk when families communicate like this. So I'll give you my first little research moment. I looked at 3 studies which evidenced that when parents support autonomy, i.e. asking questions, listening and involving kids in decisions, their motivation and honesty massively increased. Active listening resulted in greater trust between parent and child, less defensiveness from the kids, and it made the kids more likely to confide in you. And the final bit of research said that when you parent using autonomy supportive communication, that's really fucking hard for me to say, it's linked to better emotional well-being and fewer behavioural issues, also known as kicking the fuck off at drop of a hat. We've all been there. So basically, kids will talk when they feel emotionally safe and valued. Kids shut down when they feel controlled and dismissed. And they're definitely going to shut down if they feel like they're about to get a massive fucking lecture. Section 2, how I keep that door open. So people quite often ask me, how is it that your kids talk to you about stuff? And honestly, because I don't act like a warden waiting to take away their phones or PlayStations. I'm not saying I haven't done that, but we'll talk about that on another episode about agreed boundaries. So when one of my kids casually drops a bombshell, or I learn about some fuckery they've pulled, I can feel my inner demon wanting to explode. But I just say, okay, even if it's through gritted teeth, like, okay, I'm gonna need a few minutes to process this. I'll come find you in a bit, yeah? And then they'll scurry off to their room, probably posting some nonsensical crap on Snapchat, and I will get that physical distance. So that distance that I've requested from them in a respectful way works for me like a mental seatbelt. I cannot respond well in a heightened state of emotion, because the moment I flip out, that door is shut, damage done. But staying calm and asking for processing time shows them I care about our relationship and I want to handle this correctly. I have emotions and feelings too, because even though I know you've called me a bitch to your mates before, I am in fact human. They're safe with me even if they fucked up, and that's where communication and connection grows. Section 3, the magic of questions. So I've had my processing time. Maybe I've called their dad to rant about what his dickhead offspring has done now. Maybe I've scribbled my thoughts on the latest revelation in my notebook. Or, probably my personal favourite, I've sat in the car and screamed as I vigorously shake that fucking steering wheel, lending further credence to the neighbours' belief that I am in fact completely fucking batshit. But now it's time for the actual conversation. And what's the temptation? Finger pointy rah 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 energy. Resist we must. This is where the magic of questions comes in. Psychology cheat codes, if you will. Before getting to the crux of the situation with them and ensuring this magic actually works, sit down to talk to them. Them sitting with you standing unconsciously signals I'm more important or powerful than you. It's really uncomfortable. If you've ever had a row with someone and you've been sat on the sofa and they're stood up, it doesn't feel very nice, does it? So make sure that you both sat down wherever it is you're having this chat. I always start by saying, thank you for telling me. I realise that wasn't easy. And if they haven't told me themselves and I've been informed by a school or sibling snitch, I say, I get why that might have felt difficult for you to tell me, but now I know, I'd like to hear your side. Can we do that? Now for the questions that turn shut down into talking, and they're gold. Why did you make that decision? Try to remove any sarcastic tone, even if it is your mother tongue. We aren't trying to shame, we're curious as to why they actually did what they did. Why did you make that decision is not the same message as why the fuck did you do that? This conveys to them in a subtle way that what they did was a decision, it was a choice they opted for, and the responsibility for the outcome is on them, without actually saying it. What made you want to do that? It helps them reflect without feeling like an idiot, even if you absolutely think they fucking have been. £10 as they shrug or mumble something resembling, I don't know. They aren't used to this way of communicating yet, so it's likely the first few times that's what's going to happen. Follow that predictable answer up with, I don't want to guess or assume why. I don't want to get this wrong. That tells them you haven't already prejudged the behaviour and you're fallible too. You don't know why and you want to know. And you could get it wrong, so you need their input. What they have to say gives value. Do you think you'd do the same thing again? Don't undo the hard work of the previous questions by saying this in an accusatory, rhetorical way. Allow it to be empowering and helps you monitor where the behaviour is going so you can manage it together. Why did you tell me? Usually the answer is because I should, but we all know that's bollocks. Kids lie to their parents on the regs. What they actually mean is because I trust you. On the flip side, ask, why did you feel you couldn't tell me? Don't say, why didn't you tell me? We need to add that feeling into it. Shrugging is a theme here, to be honest. If they do speak, I'm going to predict they'll say, because you'll go mad at me, or I didn't want to get in trouble. Lock up your seatbelt here. Do not take this as an attack. If you've gone nuclear before, it's pretty fucking reasonable they're going to expect that going forward, and they have answered your question honestly. Let them know you hear what they're saying and you've asked because you want them to be able to, fucking Jesus Christ, because you want them to be able to talk to you. So you'll take it on board and make sure you actually kind of do. Do you need any support or information from me? This gives them the autonomy I've mentioned before. And it shows respect. If they say, no, I'm good, or I don't know, ask, well, can you tell me what you already know so we can bridge any knowledge gaps either of us have? It's phrased to avoid it feeling like a quiz. It's not a trap, so you can say, you know, fuck all, stop doing dumb shit, but a genuine desire to check that they're making a decision that's informed. But also, they may well actually know something you don't. Kids aren't completely stupid, even if they do believe 95% of the bullshit they see on TikTok. And even though this is only 6 questions, going through them is going to feel quite emotionally draining for them, and maybe you, depending on what they say. If they don't want to talk about support or information right now, that's also fine. Don't push them. If you try to keep the conversation going now, you'll fall back straight into that pattern of talking at them while they're giving you basic answers we've all banked for when we've mentally checked out. Thank them for their honesty and allowing you to understand where they're coming from. Ask them to come to you when they're ready to close the issue off. That bit's quite important. This sends the message that it isn't finished, but it will be. You want to close this off. It's not going to be something that you're going to use as a stick to beat them with every time you cross their path, but it does give them that autonomy to come to you when they're ready. These questions do the opposite of lecturing. They open that dialogue we so desperately want from our kids. Research moment number 2. So these questions align with motivational interviewing techniques, which use open questioning to bring out honesty and reduce defensiveness. They also fit with self-determination theory, which says kids cooperate more when they feel respected and autonomous. We all want them to talk to us, and we want to keep them safe and help them. Giving them space to be heard without fear of our reaction is the only way we're actually going to achieve that. I tell you now, I never realised why podcasters used to have drinks while they were recording all the time, and they're always like, oh sorry, I've just clonked my drink, and I was like, why is everyone... Do you know what I get now? Actually doing this much talking, my tongue is like fucking Velcro, I'm not even kidding. So apologies for that clang. but good God. Section 4 now. I've tried a cigarette example. So I figure I'll try and give you an example that we can probably relate to, most of us, okay? Although I will say I have found kids seem to like smoke less nowadays. It's more vaping. My God, please don't even get me started on that subject. If you follow me on Instagram, you already know how I feel about that. Anyway, so I'm going to give you an overview of how this technique could actually play out. So I'm not one of those parents to give the classic "you'll ruin your lungs and die" lecture like most. Again, please see my Instagram comments. Jesus. So your kid comes to you and says, "Dad, I've tried a cigarette," or they come home smelling like a fucking ashtray. Now, the parent part of your brain is like screaming into a cushion and wanting to throw hands immediately. That's your amygdala. You've likely heard of it, but if not, it's a tiny part of your brain buried deep in there. Do not mistake its small size for its huge ability to fuck your life up, though. Clink clunk that mental seatbelt. We have to allow the rational part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, to kick in. Despite being far, far larger than your amygdala, it runs at the pace of like Internet Explorer, so you've got to give it a minute. Think fibre optic broadband now versus dial-up from 1997, you know what I mean? We need to allow the PFC to work its slow but effective magic and produce some logic. We kind of want to arrive at, okay, I was a teenager once, I did dumb shit with my mates, it wasn't to spite my parents, I didn't end up a gang member or in jail on a whole life tariff. So let's just calmly ask them about it and see where this goes. What made you want to try that? They'll likely say, I don't know, or everyone else was doing it. And if they say that, do not ask them, if all your mates put their head in an oven, would you do it? You're going to basically stop that communication straight away. Or if you've got a child like my Jasper, he'll come back with some witty retort about, well, obviously not, because our heads wouldn't all fit. You see what I'm dealing with here? If they're honest, it's because their mates were doing it, and they didn't want to be different. That's incredibly standard for teenagers. They all claim they want to be unique, yet they seem to dress like carbon copies of one another. The phone may be real with that lot. Follow up with, well, did you like it? Most of the time, they're going to say, no, it was grim. If you've ever tried a cigarette underage, tell them about it. I know, sounds weird. Honestly, this is genuinely what I do with my kids. It doesn't encourage the behaviour. They don't think, well, you did it, so I can. It shows empathy. Tell them you get it. You did it because your mates did it, or you took one out your nan's handbag, or whatever it was. It stemmed from curiosity and wanting to be included. That's the exact same reasoning that made them try it. It opens an honest dialogue and it gives you common ground. They can actually relate to you. If you didn't do this, well done you fucking goody-goody. Think back to a time when you did something you weren't 100% on, but you did it because all your mates were. The thing you did isn't actually that relevant. It's that feeling of ignoring your doubts or the rules, potential repercussions, to feel included, and we've all felt that. So that's going to lead you into, so what do you already know about smoking? And they're going to tell you exactly what you want to hear, all the obvious health stuff to varying degrees. So fill in the gaps if you need to, or research it together, better still. Do not do the classic Google image of black lungs after 40 years of smoking. That's just going to trigger the "it won't happen to me" mindset. Like, all teenagers think they're invincible and it's never going to happen to them. And I'll be honest, whilst you're researching, you're probably going to stumble across it anyway. So finding it by accident is a lot better than shoving it straight in their face. If those health-related stats don't put them off, ask them to Google how much it's going to cost per year. You're probably at that point going to want to highlight they cannot in fact sell a kidney on the darknet, no matter how much they wish to continue that stinky habit. Questions to avoid here though: who gave it to you, or where did you get them? It's likely going to make them want to lie or not say. They do not need the parent group chat popping off because they've told you one of their mates gave it to them. The turmoil they're going to experience about peer group repercussion far outweighs any shit they're going to get off you. They also cannot deal with you dragging them to the dodgy shop that sold it to them and going apeshit at the guy behind the counter. As tempting as that is, it's going to embarrass them and probably make them more inclined to do it out of fucking spite. Being curious over cross works because people shut down when they feel they're being talked at or attacked. Engaging in this negative manner with kids regularly teaches them that's how we communicate, and in turn they're just going to continue that cycle, and that's not what we're here for. Always thank them for any level of conversation they give you, even if it's small. It validates their feelings and makes them feel respected. This is only going to benefit your conversations and enhance your relationship with them, which is what we want. So newsflash. You cannot physically stop them from smoking unless you glue them to your hip 24/7, and we're not out here trying to raise future serial killers, are we? But we can raise kids with enough trust in us and enough self-confidence to politely decline the offer of a ciggy by saying, "No, I'm good fam, yellow fingers and no peas is not a vibe." Research moment number 3. I need to listen to that back because I feel like that's going to get annoying. But anyway, here we are. Research backs this all up. It shows that communication works better between parent and teens when it's collaborative, not authoritarian. It tells us that teens respond better to dialogue-based guidance rather than rule-based control. So yes, you can talk about risky behaviour with your teen without being a dick about it. Section 5. Handling your own big reactions. I'm going to say something that some parents won't like. You can't expect your kids to regulate if you don't regulate. If you want them to talk, you have to make it safe by managing your own emotional shit first. I mentioned earlier about those 2 parts of the brain that fire up at different rates in response to what you've just heard. Your nervous system sets the tone, so grab your fire extinguisher and sit the fuck down. Because if you're an explosive volcano, they'll go dormant. If you're a sanctuary, they're going to come in. That's why one of my favourite lines still is set the standard. It's not quite lead by example. You're an adult, you can legally do things they can't do, like drink, smoke, vape, do the nasty. For me, saying that doesn't really apply to adult-child interaction. But how we conduct ourselves and communicate very much does set the standard. The seatbelt of, I need some processing time, shows them that you do have an emotional immediate response, and you're aware if you speak now, it probably isn't going to go the way you want it to go. You're demonstrating that you care about their feelings and that relationship with them. It's well documented in psychological research over the past 50 or 60 years that children learn behaviour by watching you, not listening to you, which is fucking handy because a lot of the time they don't fucking listen. Parents' emotional regulation very much predicts how their child will regulate their emotions. So as parents, it's vital that we model self-regulation. If you do find yourself on the struggle bus in this regard, there is an upcoming episode on emotional regulation for adults raising kids. So let's sum up this whole approach, how it works, the listening, the questions, the calmness. Well, it builds trust. Now, I'm not saying your kid isn't going to do dumb shit, because they probably definitely are. But you can trust that they'll tell you when they have. They might even start asking you what you think before they do the dumb shit, because they're going to begin to trust you and your judgment. Your kid's going to trust you're a safe space to ask questions, get advice from, and help them if things go wrong. It makes your kids more honest, it teaches them emotional regulation, and they learn they don't have to hide shit from you because you love them regardless. And honestly, if your kid can tell you the scary stuff, that risky shit, that's how you keep them safe and close. So that's the end of that part. Listener and follower Q&As. So I put a vote out on my Instagram story, and I'll be honest, it was a pretty even split with a fair amount of votes. So I wasn't entirely sure whether I should set the format to have Q&As at the end. So I thought for the first episode I wouldn't do them so you can see how my format is and how I've presented the information. Then you guys can decide if you want Q&As at the end of the episode or if you want to submit Q&As and I could do an episode on that subject instead. So I will put out some more votes probably on Instagram stories, either on the podcast or my personal page. And then we'll kind of see from there what the feedback is. So if you're a Patreon member, you'll be able to get a little PDF. Sorry, I literally can't say PDF anymore. It's now alien to me, thanks to bloody Morbid. Shout out. Yeah, there'll be a PDF of the pointers for today's episode. It's kind of like a cheat sheet for you to refer back to for everything that I've touched upon in this episode. So you don't have to keep listening to me to go over it, though I do appreciate you doing so. If you want to get in touch with me, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm really regretting my handle now. So it's the Off Script Parent Podcast, but there's an underscore between each word. That's hella catchy, isn't it? It's in the show notes. Or you can email me at theoffscriptparent@gmail.com. But always, guys, be kind to yourselves and your kids because neither of you asked to be here and it's fucking wild out there. Much love, Mother Dearest.